Stop for a moment. Not because you need a break, but because there's something here almost everyone thinks they understand, yet almost no one has actually looked at closely. Everyone knows the Epic of Gilgamesh, but almost nobody has truly read Tablet 9. That's not an accusation. It's just reality. The epic itself is massive. The translations are dense, academic, and not exactly inviting. So most people experience it secondhand, through summaries that spotlight the famous elements, the flood narrative, the bond with Enkidu, the pursuit of immortality. Those are the pieces repeated in documentaries, explored in podcasts, and recycled across both mainstream and alternative history discussions. But Tablet 9, that part is almost invisible. And what's strange, what's genuinely difficult to ignore, is that it contains something I have never seen seriously discussed anywhere. Not in documentaries, not in podcasts, not in academic overviews, not even in the more speculative corners of alternative research. Nowhere. When I actually read it, line by line, not a summary, not a paraphrase, but the text itself, I came across a description so unusually specific, so structurally precise, and honestly, so unsettling, that I spent days trying to make sense of it. I searched for explanations. I looked for interpretations. I tried to reconcile it with what's already been written. I didn't find anything that fully accounted for what I was seeing. So let's go directly to it. Here's what Tablet 9 actually describes. Gilgamesh has left Uruk. This happens after Enkidu's death. After loss hits him in a way that strips away everything familiar. He's no longer a king surrounded by walls and people. He's wandering alone in the wilderness. He's dressed in animal skins. He's grieving. And for the first time in his life, he is confronting something he can't overpower. His own mortality. That realization changes everything. He makes a decision to find Utnapishtim, the only human ever granted eternal life, and demand to know how. But reaching him isn't simple. It requires passing through a specific place, something the text treats not as myth but as a defined location. A twin-peaked mountain called Mashu. Mashu isn't described poetically. It's described functionally. It has a purpose. It governs the movement of the sun. Every evening the sun enters Mashu through its western peak. Every morning, it exits through the eastern one. That's not metaphor in the way it's presented. It's described as a literal process within the structure of the world. Inside this mountain is a tunnel, a passage used nightly by Shamash, the sun god, to travel from where the sun sets in the west to where it rises again in the east. The implication is clear. The sun disappears underground. It travels through Mashu. It emerges again on the other side, every night, without exception. Gilgamesh reaches the entrance of this passage, and it's guarded. The beings stationed there are described in terms so direct that there's almost no room for reinterpretation. They are scorpion men, from the waist up human, from the waist down scorpion. Their scale is enormous. Their heads reach the sky. Their lower forms extend into the underworld. Their presence radiates something overwhelming, something lethal. Their gaze is described as death itself, and here's where it gets even more grounded. These beings are not unique to this text. They appear in British Museum artifacts, specifically Akkadian cylinder seals that have been photographed, catalogued, and preserved. Multiple seals depict them positioned at the gates of Shamash, exactly as described in the narrative. This wasn't a one-off literary invention. It was a consistent visual tradition. A recognized iconography. Gilgamesh approaches them. One of the scorpion men looks at him, then turns and speaks to his wife. And this moment matters, because it's unexpectedly human. They're not roaring monsters. They're not attacking. They're discussing him, assessing him, deciding what to do. The scorpion man says, "The one who has come to us, his body is the flesh of gods." He recognizes Gilgamesh immediately, not as a normal human, but as something more, something visibly different. Gilgamesh explains why he's there. He's seeking Utnapishtim. He needs to pass through the tunnel. The response he gets is direct. No ambiguity, no dramatization. Just a statement of fact. No human has ever done this before. The scorpion man tells him, no one has walked the path through the mountain's darkness. Then he explains why. The tunnel is measured in time. 12 double hours. And in that entire span, there is no light, none at all. To understand what that means, you need to understand the unit being used. A double hour, or baru in the Mesopotamian system, equals roughly 2 modern hours. So 12 double hours? That's 24 hours. An entire day. Continuous movement. In absolute darkness, through a passage used by the sun itself. The scorpion man warns him clearly. He will enter in darkness. He will remain in darkness. And if the sun catches him inside, he will not survive. And then, he lets him pass. What comes next is one of the most methodical, almost mechanical descriptions of movement through space in ancient literature. The first double hour, complete darkness. No light ahead, no light behind. The second, the same. Still nothing visible. The third. The fourth. The fifth. The repetition isn't decorative. It's structured. Each segment is marked, counted, measured. The darkness doesn't shift. The silence doesn't break. This isn't written like fear. It's written like progression. 2 hours, 4 hours, 6, 8. The text tracks it, deliberately. By the 11th double hour, something changes. There's a hint of light ahead. At the 12th, light fully appears. He emerges just before the moment when Shamash would have overtaken him inside the tunnel. And that detail matters, because the text makes it clear, he barely made it. If he had been any slower, if the sun had reached him within that enclosed passage, he would have been burned. He exits at the last possible moment. And on the other side, he doesn't find wilderness. He finds something else entirely. A garden, not a natural one. A constructed otherworldly environment where trees don't bear fruit. They bear stones. Carnelian, lapis lazuli, agate, rubies. A place at the edge of the sea. A place where the light itself feels different. Where the world no longer behaves like the one he left behind. A boundary, a threshold. A dividing line between what is known and whatever exists beyond it. Now here's where the standard academic interpretation comes in. Scholars classify this entire sequence as metaphor. They interpret the tunnel as symbolic, a representation of death and rebirth. A descent into darkness followed by emergence into light. A narrative structure that appears across cultures, often used to describe transformation. And on the surface, that makes sense. Until you look closer. Because the text doesn't just suggest a journey. It measures it. It uses specific units, double hours, that appear in Mesopotamian administrative records. The same unit shows up in grain inventories, astronomical calculations, and planetary observations. This was a civilization that tracked things with precision, and the same system used to calculate the movement of Venus is being used here to describe this passage. Not loosely, exactly. And here's the inconsistency. The epic uses these same measurements to describe other locations, places scholars accept as real within the text's geography. The cedar forest, linked to Lebanon. The waters of death, a defined region with rules. Hutnapishtim's island, a specific destination, all treated as structured locations. So why is the tunnel the exception? Why does precise measurement mean geography in one context but metaphor in another? That shift isn't coming from the text. It's being imposed onto it. So what happens if you take the description at face value? You're left with something very specific. A passage running east to west through a mountain, long enough to require 24 hours of continuous movement, completely devoid of light from end to end, used regularly by something that produces intense heat and light, enough to kill a human if encountered inside. This isn't a cave. It's not an architectural tunnel. It's something far larger, something geological in scale. Scholars often associate Mashu with real mountain ranges, like the Taurus Mountains or the Zagros Mountains, based on the epic's geography. Both are real. Both are vast. And neither has been investigated for anything matching this description. Not because it's been ruled out, but because it's never been seriously considered. Now here's where it expands. Because this idea, the underground passage, the guarded threshold, the journey in darkness, isn't isolated. It appears elsewhere. In Egyptian tradition, the sun god Ra travels each night through the Duat, an underworld realm, passing through gates guarded by serpent-like beings, moving in darkness before emerging again in the east. Same structure. In Norse mythology, Heimdall stands watch over Bifrost, the bridge between worlds, monitoring all who approach. A guarded threshold between realms. In Hindu cosmology, Patala is described as an extensive network of underground regions inhabited by non-human entities, accessible through specific entry points. And in Hopi tradition, the Sipapu marks the place where humanity emerged from below, through an opening in the earth. Different cultures, different continents, same underlying pattern. A passage beneath the earth. Guarded access points. Non-human sentinels. Movement through darkness. Emergence into another world. The Scorpion Men exist in preserved artifacts. Tablet 9 has been available for over a century. The measurements are documented. The parallels are real. So the question becomes unavoidable. What kind of passage takes two